Hello, and welcome back to the show, World War II Books Where to Start. I'm your host, Robert Sherwood, coming at you today with a top 10 list of the most annoying habits of military writers, nonfiction. Top 10 list here for you. So if you read enough, you'll see this stuff crop up over and over again, and it may annoy you, it may not, but over a lifetime of, or half a lifetime of reading, it has really gotten to bug me something fierce, to use a cliche, getting under my skin. Things that could be improved, things that don't need to be done, things that are just obnoxious as all get out. So as a style, as reading and enjoying books or judging cover art is, it's all entirely subjective. Holler at me in the comments if you got something on your personal pet leave that I left off or you feel strongly about. But here we go. Number 10, the ominous quotation. Used at the beginning of a chapter or at the beginning of a section of a book. This is used to set the tone or to let you know the erudition of the author quoting some obscure scholar or author they particularly love, to give you a sense of foreboding about the upcoming material. Okay, we're not going to remember 20 seconds later. We're not. It may feel really crucial for you to do this, but in a slightly larger context, like flipping the next page, it's not. So that can go by the boards. Number 9, stock photos. And this really annoys the hell out of me. 80 years removed from the war, you gotta understand this is a well-photographed war. There's millions and millions of pictures out there. And yet authors and publishing houses, and I'm not sure where the responsibility lies or who gets to say so on final photo stuff in a book. But 80 years on, we don't need to see the same stock photos over and over again of, say, Yamamoto, hunch over the chart table, or the standard photo of Pearl Harbor after the attack. The D-Day, the poor guy on D-Day that's getting shot coming up the beach. We don't need to see those stock photos anymore. They've been done to death, but there are thousands and thousands and thousands of other photos relevant to whatever you're writing about that can be used. We need to move on and get to the next level of writing about World War II. Stock photos, they're just a crime. Sort of, a literary crime. Number 8, use of literally. This is going to relate to number 1 also on the list. But I find a really disturbing trend of authors using the phrase, literally, he got his shoes blown off his seat. I get it. He was caught in a bomb explosion and got flung across the room 40 or 50 feet. Yeah, he was blown out of his shoes. I get it. You don't have to tell me it's literally. I get it. If it was hyperbole, I would be able to understand it from the context. Stop it. You shouldn't be doing this for us. We get the idea. We really do. Respect your audience. Respect the intelligence of your audience, and don't insult us like this. Number 7, footnotes, and this is kind of a publishing standard thing, but also author involved too. The old style footnoting used to be a bar across the bottom third of the page, bottom fourth of the page, with an asterisk in the text to tell you go down, hey, read this below the bar, if you wanted to. It wasn't crucial to the text. It was a slight addendum or an aside. And if you wanted to check it out, you could. Cool. If you did, you probably wouldn't miss anything crucial. That was cool. It was right there in front of you. You didn't have to go hunting. In the 80s or 90s, I'm not sure when, we shifted to no footnoting in the text. Everything's just a number for notes in the back. And if you go hunting that up, most of them are still citations. 90% of the stuff is still citations. And the other 10% actually have footnoting material in the notes sections. So it becomes less valuable to hunt those things down. Even though it's easier to do with electronic books, you hypertext link, ding, you just flip back to note 57 of chapter 3, and then you flip right back with the push of touch of a finger on your screen. But still, it's not as valuable to go hunting that stuff. 90% of it's fluff citations that you don't care about because you're not a scholar, and 10% actual material. But then the newest trend, taking over the 2000s, is that we strictly have chapter notes. And when you go back and look at the number, chapter 1, 2, 3, it'll have an ellipsis quote from a relative sentence and a citation. And there's no footnoting material back there at all. So it's entirely worthless to try to hunt up some extra detail or elaboration that you think might be appended to this notation number. It's absolutely garbage. So for the reader, footnoting, for the attentive reader who may want a little extra material or is hopeful of some more elucidation on a particular point, if they hunt down those footnotes, now in the notes section, back of the book, they're entirely worthless. So I feel like the art of footnoting has really taken a steep decline and is a disservice to readers for those who really care. Number 6, cliches. Cliche. I can't say this enough. Cliche. You need to knock down the number of cliches you use. There is a particular offender I have in mind, James Holland, but there are dozens of other writers who cannot refrain from using standard phrases also in their writing. I get it, not everybody is a Pulitzer Prize winner, and yet you shouldn't be writing at a high school level if you're an adult making your living doing this. If you're a researcher at a university, or a freelance guy who writes history books, you travel around the world with funding from your publisher, you need to be able to do it on the page without resort to cliche. It's kind of embarrassing sometimes to sweat through this stuff. Like, man, can you not stop it and have your dog proofread it? And if he barks too loud, oh, hey, that's a cliche, I better take it out. You can do something to clean it up. Number 5, 2 phrases here. We'll lump them into one: as early as, / or go so far as to say. These are both journalistic, heat of the moment kind of phrases that I could entirely do without to build an impending sense of drama or, what's going to happen next. As early as, it gives a false sense of alarm. As early as, you can simply substitute from such and such a date, this occurred, or this policy was adopted on blank, 1938. That's all you have to do to knock out the journalistic hype nonsense. We don't need the hyperbole. It's a nonfiction book. You can do better. Go so far as to say, come on, man, what is it? This is trash. Just say he said it. Or he went further on the point. Go so far as to say, well, that's ramping up some soap opera drama there. You can do better. Don't do it. Number 4, sneak attack. And this is almost used entirely in the context of the Pearl Harbor attack. It was referenced at the time in the press as the sneak attack on Pearl Harbor, sneak attack on the United States, as a way of motivating the populace to hate Japan. And it kind of stuck in the lore and legend of Pearl Harbor that was a sneak attack. So was the British attack on Taranto Harbor, but you don't really see it referenced that way as a sneak attack. Or Operation Barbarossa's launch on 22 June 41 was a sneak attack, but you don't hear it referenced that way. Sneak attack sounds childish, like a 12-year-old building a fort in his backyard. We're going to go do a sneak attack to the bushes, man. Let's go get them. This needs to be dropped entirely. There's no way you can continue to do this as an adult nonfiction writer in the 21st century, almost 100 years removed from Pearl Harbor, and feel like you've done a good job writing. You can't. It needs to be dropped. Number 3, incorrect classes of ships being used. And this is a really personal Grimax kind of moment. But I'll see a ship referenced as a light cruiser earlier on in the text. A heavy cruiser later on might become a battleship or a submarine. Still further in the text, you never know what's going to happen with ship classes. It's terrible. I understand a lot of non-naval writers do this stuff referring to ships, may not understand what a warship is, but again, you owe it to yourself if you're going to mention it in the book. You might want to know what you're talking about and be consistent. If you're going to make a mistake, calling the Yamato a light cruiser, well, by God, do it throughout the whole thing instead of just once and then later on, hey, it's a spaceship, which if you're talking about the cartoon, yeah, it actually was, but we're not. We're talking about World War II. So clean it up, be consistent, be a professional. Again, be a professional. And this is another thing, kind of editing routine inside the publishing house. They should be able to catch this. But be that as it may, cliche. Number 2, men, women, and children, used by an author to really punch home an emotional moment when civilians are killed en masse. If it's a direct quote from a bystander, someone who survived the ordeal, someone who's talking about a family member swept up in a mass civilian killing event, we get it. Men, women, and children were executed on the spot. Usually followed also by of all ages. We get it. Authors don't need to do this on their own. They don't. We get it. It's ugly. It's a mass grave. We understand. In part, whether we want to say it or not, we're here for the bodies. If we're reading that material, We're not here for the happy ending. Everybody released 99 Luftballons and had a parade and went home happy. We're here for the ugly. We're here for the blood flowing in the gutters. We want to know. We want to know. You don't have to dress it up with extra drama to try to make us feel the pathos of men, women, and children being killed. We're not saying we were willing to go through it ourselves or we have enjoyed time traveling back and watching it. We're happy to be removed from it and reading it at a distance of 70, 80 years. But we are here for the bodies, partially, whether we want to say it or not. So you can drop the drama, and again, theme of the day here, be an adult as you write. Respect your audience's ability to absorb and understand the information without resorting to hyperbole or trying to force an emotion down their throat that they're really not feeling. Number 1 on the list, and this is a real kind of recent 25-year thing, dumbing down. I see this being done over and over by authors who just can't help themselves. Like they're just terrified their readers won't understand what they just said. Whether it's a technical matter or whether it's something simply as an ambush and girls were called up to the line. But you'll see this over and over again, preceded by the dreaded phrase, in other words. Whenever you see that phrase, the author is about to slap you in the face, and you'd like to be able to reach through the book and slap him back. It's ridiculous. It's uncalled for and unnecessary. If your audience can't keep up with what you're saying, they should probably put the book down and resell it. You don't need to dumb it down for them. They either get it or they don't. And as long as you have a good clarity of writing and you know your topic, let your audience catch up to you if necessary. Let them do the extra work. Don't dumb it down for us. I don't need it. I don't want it. And I think I would be echoed by a good chunk of the reading community. We don't need to be catered to. A 6-inch gun is a gun whose shell is 6 inches in diameter. In other words, it's half a foot wide. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. So that's my top 10 list of authors' pet peeves, or pet peeves I have about military writing in its current state and form. Like I said, holler at me if you got an addition to that or want to argue about something on my list. That's cool. And until next time, I'm Robert Sherwood, about to pen an award-winning article on something or other. I don't know what yet. Until next time, happy reading.